Mindfulness is everywhere in the Western world. It's in schools, it's in sports teams, it's in the mental health sector, it's involved in various therapies. And we as Christians need to figure out what do we do with this? But before we figure out what we do with it, we've at least got to understand what it is and where it's coming from. Mindfulness that we see in the Western world has been shaped hugely by the Buddhist tradition. Now, Buddhism has such a different view of the world to the Christian faith. Pantheism is where creation and the divine are the same thing. Panentheism is the idea that the divine penetrates and transcends creation. So creation is a manifestation of the divine essence, the divine energy. And that's what Buddhists' worldview of the world is. That this creation that we live in is the divine energy. And off that they build a view of the world of four noble truths. The first noble truth is about what life is like. And they say that life is filled with two things, dissatisfaction and suffering. And their goal is to end both of those. They would love to see dissatisfaction and suffering end. The second noble truth talks about the cause of the suffering and dissatisfaction in this world. And the cause that they say is that there is an illusion to reality. It is the illusion of individuality. That actually everything in this world, whether it's a person, a tree, a rock, or a house, is really the divine energy in different forms. And actually everything should be treated as the divine energy. Any notion of individuality or fragmentation is an illusion that we mustn't fall for. And because everything is this divine oneness, it makes no sense to value one aspect of creation more than another. It makes no sense to be attached to one person more than another, because everything is this divine energy. And so for Buddhists, there is the goal to detach from desire. That I shouldn't love one thing more than another, because that is saying this form of the divine energy is more valuable than this form of the divine energy. So for the second noble truth, what they say the cause of such suffering and dissatisfaction in the world is that we've fallen for the illusion. And so the hope for people, which is what they call the third noble truth, is that we can transcend this illusion. We can see the illusion for what it is. And that actually we can become aware of our oneness, our connectedness, that we can detach from desire and achieve the enlightenment of nirvana, where we dissolve back in to the oneness of this divine energy and reject the illusion of individuality. That's the hope of nirvana. The fourth noble truth directs on how you walk this path of enlightenment, and there are steps to it. The seventh step is what is called mindfulness, and the ability to breathe and adopt a posture where a non-judgmental awareness is possible, where they can transcend the false construction of reality and enjoy being in the moment. Now, that is hugely important for us to understand as we Christians are trying to figure out what do we do with mindfulness, because that view of reality is so different from the Christian worldview. Our goal is not to detach from desire. Actually, God has made every part of this creation with a special dignity and purpose and design. And the way that I love a pet is different to the way that I love a person. And the way that I care for creation is different from the way that I care for people. My goal is not to detach from desire, but to have my desires rightly ordered according to how God has made things. My goal is not to dissolve back into the oneness of divine energy. My goal is to be united to Christ by faith through the presence of the Holy Spirit and to be drawn into the embrace of our triune God. And so when mindfulness practices, whether it's in sports teams or in schools or in mental health practice or wherever we find it, there is this call to adopt a non-judgmental awareness of the moment through mindful practices such as breathing and posture. Now, when we hear that, we have to hear it with the worldview that it has come from. And the influence of Buddhism in the West through the work of Thich Nhat Hanh has been massive. He is connected with the Catholic tradition through Thomas Merton. He is connected with secular practice through John Kabat-Zinn. And off that has flowed a Buddhism that has woven its way into the Catholic faith and Western culture. And so as we look at Thomas Keating and centering prayer and the Pentecostal contemplative prayer that has flowed from that, as we look at secular mindfulness through folk like Daniel Siegel and how evangelicals have adopted that, we at least need to be aware where this has come from and what baggage it carries with it. Now, being aware of that means we've got to figure out how to respond to it. There are some Christians who would say, actually, this whole picture is all fruit from the poison tree of the Buddhist worldview. I want nothing to do with it. There are some who sort of just pick parts in as if these are neutral practices. What I would love us to do is to think about how to engage this theologically, to engage our culture and to see if there is anything that can be redeemed from it. And as you look at centering prayer and contemplative prayer, they have adopted much of the mantra, the silence, and the breathing, whereas secular and evangelical mindfulness has focused more on the breathing, the posture, and the noticing. What do we do with that? How do we engage that theologically as we swim through these cultural practices?